Okay, I reckon today's topic is the basic topic of international relations that are asked in various examinations. Factors and causes that collapse international system during two world wars, World War I and II. The working of pre-war international system was anarchic and unholy. Its salient features created a strategic situation, a critical situation in which war was inevitable. There were many factors and causes which contributed to the collapse of international system. The main or chief prime factors were natural, nationalist and freedom movements against Europeans in the world, emergence of new ideologies. New ideologies were emerging in the entire world, especially in Europe, and they were influencing the traditional factors were irrational, balance of power, imbalance of power, alliances and counter-alliances, secret diplomacy, mutual distrust, strategic and economic rivalries around the world, war as a means for securing interest, militarism, the Treaty of Versailles made after First World War, rise of Nazi after First World War, after the Treaty of Versailles, Hitler party emerged, gaining popularity in Germany, rise of Nazism and fascism in Italy, and failure of League of Nations, an international organization was created, were major factors that contributed to the collapse of international system. Internal political instability in Germany as a result of elections held in January 1990, in which Social Democratic Party emerged victorious. A constitution was framed, which was abolished by Adolf Hitler in 1933. The imposed balance of power system led to the emergence of antagonist blocs, French and Russian group against Germany and Austrian-Hungarian Empire group. The outbreak of World War I inflicted a lethal or fatal blow upon the social fabric, political and economic progress achieved during the peaceful period, previous period. The international system forcibly created during the time of 1815 to 1914 successfully perpetrated their brutal control over colonies around the world, England, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and Ottoman Empire remained dominant players of international system of their time. Austrian-Hungarian Empire, it was empire in East Europe. The secret, offensive and defensive, military and security threat, desire for expansion rise, increase in enhancement of military power, stockpiling of weapons of mass destruction, armament race, secret diplomacy, and use of force as a means for securing narrowly conceptualized goal of national interest also contributed to the ultimate destruction of humanity. The struggle for power among the European states or empires was intensified or heightened at the highest level, which created mutual distrust and selfishness. They were divided into hostile or antagonist or enemy blocks such as Triple Alliance of 1879 consisted of Britain, France, and after joining of Russia converted into Triple Entente. Japan was their ally. Central powers were Germany, Austria, Hungary, Italy, and Turkey. The postulation or thinking of optimists and idealists that the huge loss of life and property inflicted by various wars would make Europeans wiser and discourage them from undertaking recourse to war as a means for settlement of their dispute proved wrong and ephemeral. The peace settlement made after World War I could maintain peace only for just 20 years, only to bring another wave of destruction. The following factors were responsible for the collapse of pre-war international system and the outbreak of both world wars or at present war in Ukraine. Russia and between Russia and Ukraine, Ukraine is supported by the United States and its Western allies against Russia. Russia is supported by China and some Muslim countries. The first factor, natural factor. The main cause for collapse of international system was the wrath of nature, who revenged from the European people for their unparalleled blatant persecution of humanity around the world. The European nations since 12th century perpetrated innumerable huge cruelties upon the innocent people of Asia, Africa, and America, irrespective of race, creed, color, and religion. All religions of the world are unanimous that the nature has given entire human being two destructive powers, destructive weapons. One is prayer in their hands. The Allah Almighty Himself has directed entire humanity to use frequently these weapons in time of peace and difficulty. These are entreaty, prayer to Almighty Allah, God, and curse are anathematized when any human is in need of material thing or spiritual peace. Naturally, he looks to sky or nature for fulfillment. Almighty Allah has directed all humanity to demand everything only from Him, as He is the omnipotent and omnipresent. When any individual or nation persecuted an individual or nation, the oppressed people are subjugated or oppressed people looks to Allah Almighty and beseech His blessing. The oppressed, groaning under suffering, seeks wrath of Allah upon the oppressors, individual or nation. The process of nature grants its own peace. Allah Almighty accumulates these prayers and reflects His wrath and revenge on proper time. The oppressor, individual or nation do not realize the wrath of Allah continues His operation unabated because they are not fearing from God. The Allah Almighty responds to these prayers of oppressed people irrespective of the religion, whether they are Muslim, whether they are non-Muslim, whether they are Christian, whether they are Jews, whether they are any religion. Color, white, black, any color, and imposes His, because we all are creatures of Almighty Allah, and imposes His wrath in one or the other way that an individual or nation cannot perceive it. Allah Almighty inculcates in the minds to initiate, to start deeds or actions that they think appropriate for the time being, but they result in the utter destruction and repercussions for our times to come. The Allah Almighty instilled in the minds of Europeans nations to do something so that natural process take its course and new philosophies or systems in various fields may supersede or transform the old one. The nature decided to reduce the power of Europe and give freedom to subjugated nations, praying for His wrath and valiantly fighting for freedom. Allah Almighty brought unparalleled loss of lives and destruction in both World War I and World War II to inflict wrath besieged by the oppressed people of world or nations of the entire world. Allah Almighty destroyed these mighty empires into insignificant pieces, and their people faces difficulties. Thus, the main cause, in my opinion, which is not written in any books, for the collapse of international system during World War or after World War was natural. Number two, the main cause. Number two, nationalists and freedom movements in the world. Nationalism become a slogan for liberation and freedom from the clutches of European powers. Nationalist movement started by the subjugated people and subjugated or occupied people around the world against colonialism of European powers, and Europeans added fuel to the fire and spread the fire in which mighty empires were burned to ashes. The subjugated and persecuted people waged valiant struggle and guerrilla wars to attain salvation and freedom from the clutches of conquerors who conquered them. The enemies of one another helped the subjugated nations and people to defeat their enemies. The European colonial powers lost military and economic power. They were not in a position to perpetuate their control over the subjugated lands where people started movements against them. The success of communist revolution in Russia in 1917, and China were helping because in China communism was gaining ground, helping and encouraging these nationalist movements in the world against capitalism. The USA, United States of America, also forced and coerced or compelled the colonial powers to liberate these countries, otherwise they will face communism. Humanity was suffering under the agonies of oppression. God had raised up these nationalist movements to resuscitate it and to deliver it from serfdom to freedom. The national movement broke the fetters of ignorance and invited people to release them from every form of bondage. The success of nationalist movement restored to people the legitimate comforts of life that they had been deprived by colonial powers of Europe. Nationalist spirit gave to subjugated people a hope of new life, a new society, and a new culture. Nationalist movement ushered in a new era in the human history. The spirit of nationalist movement worked as tsunami for colonial empires of the world. People did not know the basic tenets of politics due to monarchies, because there were monarchies all over the world, dictators in the world. They were disunited and used to be at loggerhead, fighting with each other. The colonial rulers encouraged one faction of society, of our nation, against other. That is why they were divided and easy prey to conquer. The colonial powers created political instability, economic disparity, and social degradation. The political, economic, religious, and social conditions of subjugated people were worse beyond description. They were utterly butchered. The colonial powers had made work like the pre-Islamic period of world. The lower strata of society were disgruntled and wanted a salvation when the nationalist movement raised voice and persuaded them. They not only altered their political, economic, and social structure, but also defeated the colonial powers, mighty colonial powers, by unparalleled sacrifice. No doubt, the outcome of these nationalist movements reshaped the contours of world and ultimately freed the humanity from bondage and tyranny. The perished people sacrificed their lives for future generations. The new states secured independence following collapse of international system. There were only 51 recognized states at the time of establishment of United Nations Organization in 1945. Currently, world has more than 200 countries. These new states were emerged from the womb of colonial powers, which they have forcibly occupied against the will of subjugated people. The desire and struggle for political and economic freedom compels the people to find new avenues They transform, change, alter the social structure in countries of world. Their valiant struggle and unparalleled sacrifice bore the fruits of freedom from cruel European nations. Number third, emergence of new ideologies in Europe or in world and ideological conflicts on the basis of religion. The ideological conflict between dictatorship and democracies. Democracy was a new concept. Capitalism was prevalent in Europe, America, and communism was prevalent in Russia and China, were responsible for the collapse of their fight collapsed the international system. Russia strived to preserve and expand its ideology of communism in the world, around the world. The ideology of communism was gaining ground in China. The rise and spread of communist ideology forced European nations to initiate a new ideologies of liberalism and social democracy to curb the influence of communism in the world. These ideologies are imitation of Islamic concept of welfare state. The Islamic ideology the Islamic ideology was also gaining strength in the world because Islamic world was subjugated by the colonial powers, Britain mainly. Hinduism and Islamic ideology forced the British to leave the South Asian subcontinent. Muslims all over the world were united and the idea of pan-Islamism was becoming popular. As a result, after some time, Arab League was established in 1945. Then the major platform of all Muslims of the world, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, was established in 1969. The voice of Muslims of South Asia also played a major role, a prime role, a significant role in the unification of Muslim ideology around the world. The Muslims of South Asian subcontinent gave innumerable sacrifices for eradicating colonialism from the world. The British could not resist the pressure of people of South Asia and reluctantly, reluctantly, left to the subcontinent. Number 4, politics of alliances, counter-alliances, and clandestine secret diplomacy. The struggle for power among European states of powers was intensified with mutual distrust on each other. They did not believe or did not trust each other. They were divided into two hostile blocs, Triple Alliance formed by Germany, Austria, and Hungary and Italy. The other bloc was Triple Entente of England, France, and Russia. These blocs entered into alliances against each other. The other blocs also created counter-alliances to curb their enemies or to fight their enemies. It was an era of alliances and counter-alliances. The practice of secret diplomacy gave rise to an environment of mutual distrust, suspicion, and rivalries. The Europeans believed in war. They thoroughly believed that war is the only way to achieve their objective as a means to procure the vital strategic, military, and economic interests. This perception gave rise to dangerous arms race in pre-war system. This factor contributed to the collapse of international system. Number five, strategic and economic rivalries, not in Europe but in the entire world. European powers always depended upon their imperialist foreign policies for securing more and more territories because they were greedy in the entire world, resulted into emergence of deep enmities, conflicts, and clash of strategic and economic interests in the world. The Asia and Africa became their ground for economic rivalries. Their rivalries and introduced against each other also contributed to collapse of international system. In that war era or that war period, all the states regarded only military power as the source of national power. The principle of survival of the fittest was regarded supreme. The presence of militarism in an environment of mutual distrust and suspicion set the stage for the breakdown of pre-war system through conflict. There were several other elements which added fuel to the fire, which ignited the fire of world wars, World War One and Two, both. Number six, failure and inability of League of Nations, which was an international organization. All these factors created a situation in which the breakdown of pre-war international system became inevitable after the end of World War One, First World War. A fluid international system or weak international system came into being, in which League of Nations with its collective security system came into being. The League of Nations was created for securing international peace and to save the future generation from war. However, due to structural defects, the League of Nations failed and could not achieve its aims of preventing aggression or war. The United States, major player of the world, did not become its member, and many countries left it free will. Germany considered it as a grouping of imperialist power to preserve and promote their interest in the world. Russia was in communist country. Russia regarded it a form of imperialist assembled to thwart her to curb communism in the Russia. With such perception of its members, the League could not play its due role, its proper role. The League of Nations efforts towards disarmament were inadequate. Economic depression of 1930s also contributed to the collapse of international system. These cumulative mixture factors were responsible for collapse of international system. All these causes were responsible for the outbreak of World War One and World War Two. Even today, world is rapidly moving towards Third World War, only due to the presence of above factors at the brink of Third World War between antagonist ideologies. The Islamic ideology, no doubt that Islamic ideology or Islamic countries will play a crucial role in the future of present international system. Okay.